All right. Well, welcome. So this is traditionally called the Mo Mindful Show, but today um, it's a special feature, and we have an introductory writing workshop. So I want to welcome, first of all, our guest presenters. Right now we have Coach B and Dr. Henry, and I'll give a proper introduction in a moment. And I see we have a few people online already watching us. Welcome. Thank you for joining us today. So we are going to go ahead and get started. And apologies for starting late, but sometimes we have some technical difficulties. However, not an excuse, uh, just information. But my name is Dr. Mo. I am your host, host of the Mo Mindful Show. I'm an author, um, former educator, um, speaker, uh, entrepreneur, business owner, which includes investing, and obviously the host of the Mo Mindful Show. And I have some very good friends with me here today and colleagues, and I want to introduce them. So first, we have Coach B, and let me pull up his bio. So of course I can speak freely about Larry, but he's Larry Coach B, and he's a health and wellness uh, and millionaire mindset coach who helps people um, develop the proper mindset and increase your circle of influence. He motivates you to transform your mind and your body and your soul. So he has that trifecta going on there. And he also consults in the areas of small business startup and building business credit, which is something very, very important. So um, this isn't the forum right now to talk about all those different ventures and what he can do for you. However, I will give each speaker an opportunity if they want to share their information, how you can reach them. I will do that right at the end. Okay. And then we have Dr. Jacqueline Henry. She's a PhD. Um, she uh, government employee, but she's held positions as directors in several different nonprofit organizations and built them up, and now she works for the District of Columbia government. Um, she's been in this business for over what 4 decades, really,
Yeah.
um, and she's oh. Let me back up for a second. Well, no, let me finish yours. So, and she's written a book um, and it's somewhat of a memoir, and she's going to be talking about that and the whole writing process, um, and so she'll share the title of that and everything. So let me go back to Coach B. Also, all of us are authors, and I failed to mention that Coach B has written a book, and it deals with some of those things that we mentioned on his bio in terms of building business credit and business development. So you definitely want to get that if you're interested in entrepreneurship at all. Okay. And then we have one other guest who will be joining us, and I'm going to give her introduction now so that when and if she does make it, um, we won't have to go back. But her name is Sheila Cunningham, and she is a registered nurse with over 30 years of experience in her field. And her passion, similar to Coach B, is health and wellness. And it's led her to obtain several certifications ranging from cannabis consultant, boxing and barbells, and certified transformational nutrition coach. So she and Coach B have a lot in common there. She's recently published her 21-day guided journal, Get Perfectly Balanced, which is a wellness journal, and it inspires people to look at health in a holistic view. So she talks about um, mindset, she talks about uh, finances, relationships, all the things, and she wants to empower and inspire you to live your best life. Um, so that is Sheila. We call her Coach Cunningham. So, with that, we're going to go ahead and give you all an opportunity. If I missed any key areas of your introduction, I'd like you to kind of speak on that for a second, and then I'm going to commence to the questions. So, we'll start with Dr. Henry. So if you want to just expound a little bit upon the bio, I know I probably didn't do you justice, but go ahead.
That's fine. I've spent many years helping to build the capacity of organizations to reach the goals and outcomes that they have set for themselves. And in doing that, I've also worked with individuals and executives in terms of reaching the goals that they have for themselves. And that is one of the reasons that I decided to write a book about myself and my journey in terms of working and raising a family and all the kind of things that you sort of run into. But that just adds to my bio a little bit.
Awesome, awesome. All right, Coach B, do you want to add to your bio, your credentials?
You did an excellent job as you always do, Dr. Mo. I'll just say that, like you mentioned, health and wellness and financial health as well. And I'm really on a mission to help as many people as I can improve their quality of life.
Mm-hmm.
And so those are the two areas that I focus on. I understand that in our community, that's very much needed. We miss a lot of that information.
Mm-hmm.
And so I look forward to more and more endeavors with you moving forward in the future.
Awesome, awesome. Okay, so let me give a couple shout outs. We have Junie Lejeune on with us, Praley Williams, Alexis Meeks, Nene, who's Renee, and let's see who else we got on the line so far. And I want to thank you all for jumping on with us. All right. So in the chat is where we will be allowing you to post your questions, and we'll try to get to those. But we want to maintain this as a 1 hour program. So thank you all again for joining us. So let's get started. Writing books is a very interesting task, and all of us have had the experience of putting together different types of books, and that's why I wanted a diverse panel of authors here. So Coach B is more of a technical writer, so he's teaching you strategies on how to do something specific. So there's steps to it, and and it's going to get you to an end. Whereas Dr. Henry's book is more of a memoir, and is sharing some information. However, there are many lessons throughout her life that she is sharing with her audience. And so those are two different types of books. And then my most recent book is a children's book, and it's designed to help young people to develop some of the skill sets and the mindsets to be able to succeed in life. Things that, fortunately and unfortunately, it took me until later on in life for me to learn those things, and I get to share those things with young people now. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. All right, so we have our other guest, Ms. Cunningham, just jumped on. All right, welcome, Coach Sheila Cunningham.
Good evening to you all. Thank
Good
you.
evening. Good evening. And so we gave a little introduction already, and I wanted to also give you an opportunity if you wanted to add anything. So what would you like to share about yourself real quick? And I did your introduction, but anything you want to add
I
to it?
just want to say that I am delighted to be here. I'm honored to be a guest on your show. And I'm very passionate about health and wellness. I just want to express that passion, and I'm here to serve. I know what I'm here for, and I know what my purpose is. So it's to help people and educate them any way I can, inspire them to eat healthier, to live a healthier life, to live longer. As a nurse, 30 years nursing, it's more of importance to me now to just, instead of just treating, the goal is to help prevent.
Right. Absolutely. Okay. Awesome. So first thing first, what would any of you all, anybody can just kind of raise their hand or whatever. What would you say is the first step or your first step, because there's no one way to do anything. But what was your first step in writing, or even coming up with the idea of putting out a published piece of work? Who would like to start?
Well, I don't mind starting.
Okay.
When I decided a few years ago that I wanted to write a book, and a book about myself, about my life, I said, I don't know anything about writing a book, but I know I really want to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And so someone was telling me about this company, publishing in color. And this company was there to help people of color to find out all the kinds of resources they were out here about how to get started, writing a book.
Mm-hmm.
And so I went to a conference that they had in New Jersey and got a lot of different information. But one of the biggest things I took away from that was trying to decide who my audience was going to be. So they talked a lot about that. I got a chance to talk to someone who was there to see about, reading other people's manuscripts. Well, I hadn't really written but a few pages. And what I was told was that I should read this particular book. And it was called Hillbilly Elegy. And they
Okay.
said, when you read it, you will see that it's a memoir, but they put in context what was going on at the time, what was happening, in Kentucky, what was happening over the world, whatever. And so I
Mm-hmm.
bought the book. And do you know, a couple of years later, that book is now a movie. So
Oh wow.
that that really gave me some more inspiration about
Wow.
writing. So
Hmm.
I'll stop there and I'll let someone else chime in.
A book about a hillbilly. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
All right. All right. Anybody else want to jump in there? And I'm writing notes, so please forgive me when you see me put my head down.
Okay.
That's good.
So the first thing, or your first step in writing a book.
I know for me, the thing that I had to do was start. I started, writing down things. And then I found a group of people on Facebook that would support me in that. So finding a supportive group, it was a writers group. I joined a challenge. And originally my goal was to publish a children's book. And so with that, it was going to take a little bit more work to find, the person that was going to illustrate it, and all those different things. And so when I got in a group, they suggested publishing my own journal. And so since I
Okay.
was passionate about nutrition and health and wellness, I was like, well, I can do that quickly. I did take a little bit longer than what I thought, but I found out that just starting was a good way, just writing down. And I, like you said, Dr. Henry, I didn't know anything about publishing anything. So I wanted to connect with people who were publishing, connect with people
Mm-hmm.
who had done it before. So finding a group and then just getting started. And so once I got started, I found out that you can get help with Fiverr. That was
Mm-hmm.
another big help for me,
Yeah.
getting help with Fiverr, and then found someone who could just look at the draft and correct it if I needed to, those people that came into handy. And then I found out if I wanted to get it distributed, then I went with Book Baby. I was talking to someone about Book Baby. I'm not sure if you guys heard about that. Book Baby printed it, and
Mm-hmm.
it's you can do print on demand. You can do numbers, and like so. My first book, I got 25 books from Book Baby. And then the next time I grabbed my books, I grabbed 100 more books. And so the more books you get, you can get a discount. They also work with Amazon. You put your books on Amazon and have it through
Mm-hmm.
Book Baby also. So those are the things that I did. I started reading children's books and reading journals, and still the children's book is it's on the back burner a little bit, but I'm still going to work on that because that was my first love to do my children's book. So I am, let me see, I think it's been over a year that I've been published author of a Get Perfectly Balanced Wellness Journal.
Awesome. Awesome. Coach, you want to add anything to that before I recap?
The beginning process for me, it was a combination of a few things. One, I naturally enjoy helping people. My first love in life was basketball, and even the way I played the game, I love, making assists. I love seeing other people shine. I love helping people. And as I got older, in other areas of my life, I found that I really like, helping people and seeing people thrive and seeing people do well. And so that combined with understanding that I had a lack mindset, a poverty mindset, right? And once I discovered that, I knew that, lots of people that have a background similar to mine probably have that same type of mindset. And then there was a third factor. My best friend, who I've been friends with since elementary school, he started this book writing process. And, we talked as it started for him. You guys may have heard of him, Dr. Morris Red.
I think I heard of that guy.
You heard of that guy?
I
So
think so.
I think I heard of him.
I watched him at the beginning of that process go from turning himself into an author and learning the entire process. The one thing that one of the millions of things that we have in common is that we both love to read and research. And so Dr. Red taught himself that whole process. And then in the meantime, I'm observing and learning and watching. And so initially I had no intent on writing a book, probably like all of us. But all of those things combined, the desire to help, and then seeing a need and wanting to provide a solution for the need that I saw, and then having being in the right environment, being around someone that, pushed me to write a book. So that was the beginning for me.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to recap and then I'll share my things here. So in no particular order, determining your audience. Some people call it your avatar or your niche, niche, I don't know how you want to say it, but so what that is knowing who you're writing to, because some people will write, and I agree with all of these things that you all said. Some people will write and they think that they're writing for everybody, but there's no one book that everybody's going to read or want to read. So you would do yourself a disservice, because if you're trying to please everybody, you're probably going to please no one. But if you know your audience, if you're writing to individuals who have a poverty mindset, then that's who you need to write to, and not just everybody in the world who has credit, because some people have credit, but they have a positive mindset, or their situation is a little different. Turning a memoir into something that can help somebody, you need to know who you're trying to help. Is it women? Is it a certain age group? Is it only African Americans? Is it, or Africans, or whatever? Who's your audience? So that's very important when you're writing a book. And I heard get started. So that sounds like it's stupid if you say, how do you get started writing a book? And your answer is get started. But really, that's critical. If you don't write anything, nothing's going to get down. And if you don't start, there's no momentum. So the momentum will start once you actually put pen to pad and start writing something. And I would add to that is create some kind of a system, a habit of doing it. So maybe, setting aside a certain time frame, 20 minutes a day for 4 days, 5 days a week. I'm going to write from 8 to 8:20, or something like that. Or, it could be, however it works for you. You can say, well, every weekend, I'm going to be a weekend warrior. I'm going to write my book every weekend for 4 or 5 weeks or 10 weeks or however long, but set some goals and know exactly how you're going to approach this, because getting started is one thing, but if you don't know when's the next time you're going to add to that, then it can drag on and on and on. And I am clearly a witness to that, because I've done that. This children's book, it took me a very long time. However, it was all in God's timing, because lots of things happened along the way, and some help came at the very end that, had I published earlier, I wouldn't have had that help. So I wouldn't have made it as best as it is now, as I believe it is. And Dr. Henry had a similar story, and I'll let her tell that in a few minutes as well. Another thing I heard was research the process. You got to research the process. Sheila and Coach B said, read a lot. Dr. Henry said it too. She researched, she read a book, and now that book became a movie. And, so you got to research the process, but also, I also heard, read other people's books. So if you're not a reader, it might be a little difficult for you to just start writing. So you should at least be a reader, and think about the types of books that you read, and that might be a good point of reference for you to write your book. So if you're not a reader, and you typically will only read books that are 20 pages, then write a book that's 20 pages. Write something that you're going to read. If you try to write a 100-page book, and on average you read 20-page books, it's not going to work. It's going to be very difficult for you. So I won't say it's not going to work, but it's going to be probably more difficult for you than if you write something that would please you. Okay. Determine your audience, get started, get help. So getting support groups, getting on Facebook, identifying other organizations, getting in some of these meetups and things like that of people of like mind. So it may not necessarily be authors, but if you're writing about business development, you need to be in a room with other people who are talking about business development. It'll give you some ideas that'll sharpen your saw, as you probably read in the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. You want to surround yourself with individuals who are already either doing the thing, or at least talking the talk that you want to share with other people. And you just get smarter that way. Research, express your passion. So write from your heart. All 3 of these authors talked about, it was something they wanted to share. They felt like this was their passion. This was something that they've been called to do. These are some terms that I've heard, that I just heard a few minutes ago. So you want to write from the heart. You want to make sure that, again, it's something that is authentically you, because it's hard to write something that doesn't really resonate in your spirit. You're just writing. At that point, it's almost like going to a job that you hate, and you're only going there to get paid. But you're a home healthcare aide, and you don't like working with people. That's not cool. So you want to make sure that you're doing something that is passionate to you all, and that's what you're doing. In the audience, they said if you can talk about, at least name your book, so that they can know, and if it's not yet published, perhaps give a anticipated publication date. So, or if it has been published, how they can get the book. So we're going to go ahead and do that real quick. So I'll start with you, Sheila.
The name of my book. I'm sorry, I stopped you. The name of my book.
Go ahead, talk.
Get Perfectly Balanced. It's a 21-day wellness journal. It is a guided wellness journal. However, I did not put it on Amazon at this moment. I was, oh, he got the book. Yeah. And so I was, in my mindset, I wanted to do it more organically. And I have been selling it just by word of mouth. And so I am sold out. And so I'm grateful for that because I have a lot of support and a lot of people who believed in me. So I will get that to Dr. Mo when I do have it on the website. I don't have a website, but when I do have it on Amazon, or I do have it in BookBaby, so that you can purchase it from there. But if anyone wants to purchase it, they can follow me on social media. We'll get over. I'm sure we'll talk about that later on too. But you can follow me and then send me a message on social media. Thank you.
Okay. Coach.
Yes, sir. So I have two companies, I Thrive Global and My Millionaire Mindset. And the book will flow through My Millionaire Mindset. And the title of the book is Business Structure and Funding by My Millionaire Mindset. And the anticipated date is 1 month from now. So everything is almost completed, everything that needs to be done. So I'm looking forward to within the next month having it released and on Amazon. And in the meantime, you can check for updates on my website, www.ithriveglobal.com.
iThriveGlobal.com. Okay. And tell me the name one more time of the book. I didn't have a chance to write it.
Business Structure and Funding.
Okay. All right, Dr. Henry.
Yes, the name of my book is Messages from My Mirror, and it's due out this summer.
Okay. Okay. Awesome. And my book is called Out of This World. I'll show it to you now. Probably can't see that. Nope. All right, so I'll share it with you all later. But it's called Out of This World, and it's part of the I Can Be Me empowerment series. And so it is going to be available starting April 5th. And we're going to have a webinar similar to this on April 5th. Well, really, it's a launch party. It will not be on YouTube, but it will be a Zoom. So you will have to RSVP. And I will see if I can put the link, post it before we get off tonight. But this book is a children's book about, or that encourages young people to adopt the principles that I've found to be helpful in being successful. And Coach B can attest to a lot of these things that he already teaches his son some of these things. And even at a young age, you're able to pick up those things. But you have to be introduced to it. So a lot of the stuff I was not, like I said earlier, I was not introduced to these principles. If you guys are familiar with the book called The Secret, and that was basically about the law of abundance, essentially, and the law of attraction, and or if you've read and or heard of Think and Grow Rich, there are several principles in there that most children probably are not going to be introduced to until and unless they start reading those type of materials when they get older. So my goal is to introduce them to it now. A former educator of 18 years, I never did my Bible, but any former educator of 18 years, having worked with young people all the way up to junior college, I had the opportunity to see and really experience what young people know and don't know, what they apply and what they don't apply. And I know I'm able to empower some of them, whoever is in my purview, to be able to improve their lives and perhaps improve the lives of their family members as a result of reading this series. And it is a series. It's a 7-book series. I picked 7 because 7 is the number of completion. And each book will have a separate principle teaching the young people. So that's that. Now, when I asked you all about the beginning, how do you start? Sheila, you mentioned publishing, like basically how it was put out. So let's jump there real quick. Self-publishing versus traditional publishing. So that's the question. From any of you all's perspective, tell me your thoughts on or your preferences or pros and cons of one or the other, or, from what your experience has been and or what you've researched already. So whoever wishes to start on that. So self-publishing versus traditional publishing. Well, let me do this. I'll do this. I'll tell what it is, the differences, and then you can tell me your preferences or what you're leaning forward. So self-publishing is when an individual or organization decides that they're going to put out a published piece of work, and they are not going to be backed by a publishing company. And publishing companies, they do a variety of things, but primarily they're the company that's responsible for producing, like putting together the manuscript. So the author will write the manuscript. They'll write their words down on paper. They may or may not edit it, proofread it too well. They send it to the publisher. The publisher is going to proofread it, make sure there are no errors, maybe make some suggestions as to how the structure should be formulated. If it's one way, they may say, well, why don't you put this paragraph here, or this should go at the end of the book, or so on and so forth. They're also going to be responsible with distribution. So distribution is how it's going to get disseminated. So they may put it on platforms like Amazon, BarnesandNoble.com, or directly into those stores. They're also responsible for tracking the book sales and just giving the author a tally of that. And they take out their portion of proceeds, and then they send the author their portion. So they do quite a bit. Self-publishing is basically the author or the author's team does all of that stuff. And so there are pros and cons to both. And I'll chime in about some of the pros and cons after I allow the panel here to discuss either preferences and or what you've already done and why. So, Dr. Henry, you just silenced yourself. Okay. So, Dr. Henry, you want to start since you're flashing your mic?
Yeah, well, actually, I looked at both, and I think I'm leaning more toward the self-publishing of my book. One, I think that the publishing, using a publishing company, is probably a little bit more money than what I want to spend at this time with my first attempt at creating my masterpiece.
That's right.
So, yeah. So I think I'm going to self-publish.
Okay. All right. Sheila.
I picked self-publishing. I also want to keep my money, and I felt like I didn't want anyone to have the rights to my book. I wanted to be, published by Sheila R. Cunningham, and I wanted to be responsible for, getting everything done at least the first time. When there's other books maybe that come in, I have so many in my head that when they come into fruition, maybe back then I'll do it. But for now, I think I like self-publishing. They make it so easy now, to self-publish. There's so many different platforms that can help you. It's a no-brainer for real.
Right. Exactly. Coach B?
I was open to both avenues. It kind of organically worked itself out. I didn't go the self-publishing route. I was able to find an investor so that I didn't have to take care of everything up front. And with that, going with a publishing company, I was looking forward to a quicker turnaround with minimal effort on my part. And so that factored into me going the route that I went.
Okay, excellent. And for my books, I've self-published, and but I'm working with someone who has both self-published and gone the traditional route. So she and I have discussed it, and she was going to be on this panel, but she had another appointment. But Teresa Swift, who has written a book that I'm highly promoting called Mint, M-I-N-T. And then she's also written 3 children's books, and I'll tell you the names of those: The Ladybug and the Bird, The Alligator with One Shoe, and JC's Cooking Class. And then she also wrote a second novel, and working on the third novel right now. And the novels are through traditional publishing. And so the pros of traditional publishing is what Coach B just mentioned, is minimal effort. You write the book, and you may have some back and forth coordination with the publishing company to make sure it maintains the integrity that you want it to have, and it meets their requirements, whatever those are. But aside from that, they're putting it together. They may even select the book cover. They may do the bio on the author, or they'll ask you for some pointers, or they may ask you for a specific bio. But it's minimal work aside from the writing. And let me not belittle the writing, because that's the biggest part. Actually, that's the hardest part, is actually doing the research and or writing the book. And then the pro also of a traditional publisher is sometimes they have a larger distribution because they've already established, so they can get more copies out there than possibly you can initially anyway. So those are some pros. Some cons of traditional publishing is that Sheila mentioned it. They take a larger portion of your money. And then Teresa told me also, which has frustrated her, is they don't really give her good updates about sales. So, she gets checks I don't remember how frequently, but she gets checks, and it doesn't really have itemized how many books were sold. So she can't differentiate between paperback versus hardback. She just has a number, a dollar figure that she gets. And on top of that, anybody who reaches out to the company is securing their information and not her. So she can't later on market to that same group of people because she has no contact information for anybody. Whereas if you're self-publishing, so I'll just jump to that now. Self-publishing, you have the opportunity to capture contact information of your audience, so that next time you come out with a product, you can reach out to them and say, hey, you bought my first book. Here's book number 2. And we're offering a discount to, former purchasers. So, reach out to us. But you want to be able to maintain and control the contact information for your audience. On top of that, you get to retain more of your money. Yes, you may have fewer copies sold, but let me just give you an example. So with Sheila, she said her second order was 100 books. So say 100 books, each book was, let's just say $3 each to print. So 100 books is going to be $300 for her. If she sells those books for $13, I'm making it easier for me. $13, then that means she's going to earn $10 per book. So she bought them for $300. She's going to get $1,300 for those books, but minus the $300 because she had to pay that. So she made $1,000. So now traditional publishing, they're going to take 50, 60% maybe, but I'm going to say 50, even though I know it's higher. But again, just for numerical, so it'll help me calculate. So the same 100 books sold, they're $10 each. No, $13 each. And so Sheila's going to get $7.50. No, $6.50. And a publishing company is going to get $6.50. So she lost about $3 by doing that. But she also lost the possibility of reaching out to that clientele again for a second purchase or for some services. Like with Coach, for instance, Coach B, after you buy his book, you may say, well, all right, I read all this and I can start to implement it and I want help. So if he captures their information, he can reach out and say, hey, I'm offering coaching services. I can also walk you through this process. It may, keep you more accountable. It may help you a little bit better, or I can give you some tricks and tips to do it. And so now he has a client that he can reach out to. But if you traditionally publish, you don't have that ability. Okay. So those are some of the pros and cons of self-publishing versus traditional publishing. And so some people may say, well, self-publishing, you get paid a whole bunch, because you may have seen Barack Obama got a $6 million advance for writing his book before he even wrote it. Well, when you have a big name behind you, then sometimes publishing companies will come to you and ask you to write a book, and we'll pay you in advance. And in advance, it's still, those books still need to be sold, and then they subtract that amount from the sales, and then they start paying you. So if he doesn't sell $6 million worth of books, now he still gets to keep the $6 million, but if he sells $20 million worth of books, then they're going to subtract the $6 million and pay him only for the $14 million, only his portion of it, 50% again, 50 or 6 or 40%. It's still not going to be, 100% of the profits or 70%. So, so that's why you may see in the tabloids and things like that people get these large advances, but the majority of authors do not get a huge advance. And like Dr. Henry mentioned, oftentimes you have to pay a publishing company to publish your book, either upfront, or they're going to take a large portion of it on the back end of it. So those are some of the pros and cons. All right. So let's go back into structure. So when writing a book, some people will use like an outline. Some people will do a brain dump, or a like a Venn diagram, a mind map, or something like that. And so, of course, everybody should be familiar with what an outline is. They may write a topic and then write several bullets about, one-liners about what they're going to say about that topic. It's almost little liner notes that they'll be, if they were speaking, they can just kind of glance at their notes. But now they're going to be writing a whole chapter or several chapters about that particular topic. So if they have 7 topics, 7 subjects, then that translates to 7 chapters, and then they break that down to what they're going to write underneath. Some people will use like a Venn diagram almost, where you put the circles, and you may say, well, in the middle where all 3 of the circles join, this is my topic, and I want to write 3 subtopics around this. So in this one bubble, you start writing the benefits of controlling your calendar. And then in another bubble, it might be how much money you can earn by, I don't even know what topics, but basically you just take 3 or 4 different things and you just kind of write from there. And some people will call that like a spider. Again, they'll write the topic in the middle and then just draw lines, and each line is going to represent a chapter or a subtopic that they're going to discuss. So those are different ways. Some people just free write. Something comes up in their head and they just write. For me, I free write pretty much. I have an idea in my head. Sometimes I will write down an outline, but I just write freely. And a lot of ideas come to me at the strangest time. Like I might be sleeping or about to go to sleep and something comes up. So I'll just grab my phone. Or if I'm driving long distance, a lot of things have a lot of time to think. A lot of things will pop up. So I'll grab my phone and I'll go to my voice notes and I'll just record, whatever that thought is real quick. And then put it down, and then later on come back and I'll listen to it. I'm like, okay, well, this is how I'm going to incorporate that. Because usually sometimes God will drop things in your spirit at the oddest times, and it's not when you're actually writing the book. So that's one thing that I do, and I would recommend to any aspiring author to always either have a notebook around them or if they have a phone, download an app that has voice notes that you can just go ahead and speak it into the phone, and so that you can capture that information later. And then one more thing, and I'll let you all talk. Um, Talking about speaking, some people are like, I just don't want to write because I have to write all this stuff down. Well, a lot of computers now, the software has the ability, Microsoft, in fact, has the ability to translate. So transcribe, not translate, transcribe. So you can speak. It's a little speaker on the bottom. If you open up a Microsoft Word page, it has a little microphone somewhere on there. I can't remember exactly where it is, but you click on that, and as you talk, it's going to take basically write down everything that you say. So if you don't want to write, you can just do it that way, and then send it to an editor. Sheila mentioned Fiverr. There's Uplist, I think it's called. There are different places that you can get freelance. What's that?
I think it's Upward.
Upwork, yeah. You can get freelance editors, freelance artists if you want illustrators, um, all kinds of different freelancers on there. But you can give them your organic, just spoken notes, and have them kind of retranscribe it so that it makes sense. And then when they give it to you, then you can make points and send it back and say, well, okay, I want this that way. Da, da, da. So there are different ways. You don't have to sit there and write or type or whatever. So I said a mouthful. Anybody else want to kind of share on that in terms of um, your processes, or if you use diagrams or whatever?
Well, my process, I used an outline, and what I did, I decided on 8 factors of my life that I wanted to talk about, that I wanted to share. And then under each one, I said, I'm going to have at least 3 messages that I'm going to leave with people. And then at the end of each one, I would have a reflection sheet. So that's the way I, set my book up.
Okay.
I just looked that up as Upwork.
Upwork. Okay.
I said
Thank
work.
you.
But also, I spoke with a friend of mine. She was telling me some interesting things about her children's book that she just published with her niece. And she said that she went different route. Well, was inquiring about different ways to get her illustrator, but she inquired about getting someone that is an artist to do it, and that didn't work out. And she got, I think they told her something about artificial intelligence that can do these things now. and then I think she did work with someone. I have to get the name to you, but she did get someone that kind of did a little bit of artificial intelligence to the children's book. And so that's the first I ever heard of someone that I knew that actually did that. But she said it was so, it was just her price that she was looking at also. She was paying attention to how much it would cost to get an illustrator to do each page. It would have been a lot. But she went the route, and she's very satisfied with the book. So I have to get the name of it. I wrote it down somewhere, but I didn't think to bring it with me.
Okay. Coach B, and I know you mentioned to me, we had a conversation. So if you want to share that information about the AI that you mentioned to me, but what's your process?
Well, like you said, my book is technical. And so that kind of took care of the mapping process, because what I'm writing about follows steps that are preset steps. And so I didn't have to, do that traditional, trying to figure that out like you guys did.
Okay. All right. All right. So also, in determining book covers and bios, what would you tell the audience was either your process and or why you selected a certain cover, or if you even did that? So, Coach, I know your publisher is selecting the cover, right?
Correct. I'm not sure if it will show on camera, but this is
Oh, that's nice.
a preliminary.
Oh, it looks so nice. Yeah.
Okay.
And so, right, I did. I had a friend that does work like that, submitted some ideas, and then I went with submitted to the publisher and kind of collaborated on what the cover would be. But that was the process of going through my circle and then the editor's resources.
Okay. And then, like, does your book have a bio on it anywhere?
Not yet. I'm still debating.
Okay. All right. All right. Dr. Henry or Coach Sheila?
Yes, I do have bio. I have page that I dedication page, a bio. I didn't put my picture on the book. It's such a small book, but it actually is this 8 by, what was it, 8 by 10, I think. So it's it's a notebook size. So it's bigger than some of the journals. The girl on Fiverr, she was saying, "Oh, this is a good size," but some people were telling me that it should have been smaller. But I think what happened was a lot of people actually like the size. So you will hear different people say, "Well, try this, try that." I just kept it with that, and I didn't want to keep delaying it like you said, Dr. Mo. I have times where I wake up in the morning and I'm like, oh, this is a good title. This is a good book. I want to put this in my book. And so, so the children's books that I'm they're all up here, but I'm going to start doing, like you said, dedicating the time to how many hours or how many minutes am I going to work on this daily, because it's up here that I got to put it down there. It's not going to be any good if it's in my head.
Right. Right. All right. Dr. Henry?
Yes, well, I have a bio for my book. And actually, for the cover, I happened to attend a Father's Day luncheon and ran into two young men that they were sitting on each side of me talking back and forth. And come to find out, they were authors. They had written books about poems. And so I took the opportunity to tell them what I was writing about these messages from my mirror. And they just immediately said, oh, okay. So we see you a younger you staring in the mirror as an older you. And I was like, wow.
I like that.
Yeah, that was it. So that's what I've done.
Right. Brilliant.
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. Well, with me, my book does have a bio. It does have a picture, and the cover of this first children's book, it has actually my children are the stars, Miles and Jasmine, but I call them MJ and Jazz, and their pictures are on the cover of the book. They're in astronaut outfits and they're floating in outer space. So, and they're throughout the book. And the art, the illustrator, which you'll hear from actually next week at 8 p.m. on YouTube like this, we'll have a creators conversation. So the illustrator, Pralee Williams, who's on right now with us, and myself will talk specifically about Out of This World. So everything you need to know about this book. And then the following Wednesday, we'll have the virtual launch party, and that'll be at 7 p.m. So people will get invitations. And I'll let you know how you can RSVP in a minute. I'll put that on the screen. But so you all just talked about, without saying it, market research. You got to do market research. So what does that mean? What does market research mean to you all?
Well, like you said, learning your market and who you're advertising to and how you're going to promote it. I think with Coach going, the route of having someone do his book and not self-publish it, I think that's where the marketing comes into play, where they can do more marketing for you. They know how to do it. They have experience in it. And in the long run, your goal is to make as much as you can because that's their profession. And then also to get that message out. And I think along with that too, you can have more opportunities because as I wrote my book, you can do it as a digital. You can do digital. You can do it because that's a lot, different. You can do it in different languages. You have a lot of different opportunities that way, and you have speaking opportunities. And so I feel like if it's a book on finance, it's a book on helping someone grow, that's a speaker. If you wanted to do, you can be a speaker. You can do, and even Dr. Henry also too. I mean, all of our books can be another way to get our voices heard in other ways, podcasts, and, things like that.
Absolutely. All right. Anybody else about market research?
Well, I haven't done a lot of market research outside of my group that I've really been working with, because there are a couple of things that I had to look at. One, I'm an academic writer, but my book is not an academic book. So I had to make sure that I had readers who were looking at it and said, no, you can't say it like that, that kind of thing. You want to make sure that your language is, for the general public. And so that was one thing. The other thing was that because I was talking about my life, and most people who, I'm a workaholic, but people only know me through my job, through the work, but they don't know me otherwise. So to say that, I have a doctorate and this, that, and the other 2 master's degrees or whatever, and then turn around and read my book and say, oh, she did some really foolish things. I had to really take a look at that. How would I feel about some of the things that I wanted to write about? But I got over that and I did that. In fact, I had to check with people who I mentioned in the book. I didn't mention them by name, but I'm quite sure if they were reading it, they would know who I was talking to or talking about. And so I wanted to get feedback from them before, I actually wrote those things about them in the book. I said one example was for my ex-husband, because I had something in there about marriage and this, that, and the way he treated me. But yet still I have his son, and he had a wife with 2 other children. And so I wanted to talk with them, which I did, about this book. And they said, well, make sure you could say something good about him before it's over. It was just things like that. I talked about forgiveness, and I had a friend that I had for 50 years that I stopped talking to for about 8 years. And so working with this book made me have to go back and make amends, and talk about it. So those are the kinds of things I'm working on and doing now. So I haven't really gone outside of my circle yet for the real marketing piece.
Right. Okay. Very, very valuable points. And real quick, I want to share, like you and I talked about this before, and I mentioned it earlier. Sometimes you're delayed and you don't know why you're delayed, but you figure out that there was a purpose in that delay later on. So Dr. Henry and I were talking a couple of days ago, and I had been pressing her to write this book and finish it up and all this for a while. And she said, had I finished it earlier than now, then I wouldn't have been she just went home to North Carolina, right?
Right.
She just went home to North Carolina, and she needed to take some pictures because she didn't have certain pictures that she decided she wanted to put in the book. She can talk to people face to face, different things like that. And that wouldn't have happened had she already put it out. And the same thing with my book. I just participated in a workshop that specifically taught me some skills on writing a children's book, because this is my first children's book. And I incorporated 90% of the stuff that I had learned. And I think it's 90% better as a result. And so when I first finished this book, and I was ready to publish it like a couple months ago, but I was still in that class, and I was going to pull the trigger anyway, but I'm glad I didn't, because every week it was something else. I was like, oh, let me change this, or let me put this in the book. Oh, let me, so again, things happen in God's timing. So we got to be okay and comfortable sometimes when it doesn't come out exactly the date, even though I mentioned set some time apart, aside so that you can write things like that. But like we're using this word organically, let it organically be completed. When the time is right, Coach B met, well, he already knew the person who runs that publishing company, but he put him back in his life at a certain interval, and that conversation came up when he could have published this book on his own a while ago, but all of that happened, and now he has somebody who has written things, who is on all kinds of social media and very well known, putting this book out for him, because he waited, intentionally or unintentionally, but that's how it happened. So let me encourage the audience that sometimes, even though we may have a live line, I'll say, I don't use the word deadline, we have a live line for ourselves, but sometimes that gets pushed back because God has a different plan for you. So we just got to think about that. You all mentioned to tell the world, basically. That's how I captured it. You got to let people know that you're writing a book. And sometimes it's a small circle, but letting people read over the book and mill over it and give suggestions. And even with the market research with me, I let some children read it. It's a children's book, so I shouldn't have all adults reading the book. And they're like, yeah, it's great. And the kid be like, I don't know what this means. Or like you said, Dr. Henry, I may have written it too high level for the grade level in which I think I'm writing it for. So I had to have some teachers, librarians, and children actually read the book and give me suggestions. So that's the market research that you can do, even if you want to keep your circle small. You have your circle of influence, and you let them read it, comment on it, make suggestions on covers. Sometimes I do contests. If somebody can share an idea for a book cover, I'll give you a gift card or whatever. Include some people, because you also want to get them excited about the book before it even comes out. So market research is also part of promoting it and telling the world. And then Sheila, you mentioned different platforms, and we have some questions here. I'll answer those in a second, or the panel will answer them. We've gone over a few minutes. Well, first let me ask permission. It's 9:13 now. We technically were supposed to get off at 9, but we started at 8:10. So I was going to push this to 9:10. But can we at least spend another 10 minutes, 12 minutes? Is that okay with the panel? Till about 9:25?
I'll need to renegotiate my fee, but I'm sure we can work that out.
All right. I'll quadruple what I'm giving you. They say nothing from nothing leaves nothing. All right. So platforms. There are different platforms: paperback, hardcover, there are ebooks, and audiobooks. So how do you all plan to publish your books, and why in those particular platforms or formats? Ladies.
For the children's book, I really thought about doing the ebook, audio, paper books. Those are the ones that I was thinking of. And then also and possibly doing them in different languages.
Okay. All right. Dr. Henry?
Yeah, I thought about the paperback and doing different languages, since someone has already said that they would interpret it for me, or translate it for Spanish, in Spanish. But I haven't made up my mind about the ebooks at this point.
Okay. What about audio?
I hadn't considered that yet either.
I love audiobooks, and I would highly encourage it, especially on the type of book that you're writing. And that doesn't mean that you have to do it, even though for me, I love when the authors actually read it.
Mm-hmm.
But I've also listened to books where the author didn't read it. They hired somebody, and there are companies you can hire. Um, in fact, one of my favorite books that I listened to on audiobook, it was called The Tanning of America, and it was written by a guy, but he actually had a female um, uh, narrate or talk.
Mhm.
And the reason why I bought the book was it had an interesting topic, but it was Kerry Washington who was who was reading it, and I like Kerry Washington. And, but the book was excellent. But that's not why I bought the book.
Sure.
So there's some benefits to it. Of course, maybe a smaller book. It may not be a benefit to doing an audio book or a children's book. I think it could be a benefit, especially if you have some music behind you. It's almost like you're producing something almost like a cartoon for them, but it's just audible, and their parents can put that on while they're going to sleep, and the book can be read to them, and so that might work for a children's book. Coach B, what platforms do you plan to publish in?
My initial intent was only to write an ebook.
Okay.
I've since been convinced to do paperback and hardcover as well. So yeah, but like I said, my originally I had only intended on an ebook.
Okay.
And I guess that's because my personal preference, just like you said, you like audiobooks, and I don't particularly care for audio, but I love ebooks. And
Okay. And for those who don't know, an ebook is basically a book that you can download. So you can go to whoever's publishing it and write on your tablet or on your computer or even on your phone. After you've paid for it, you can download it and you can read it on those devices, as opposed to having a physical book in your house. Some people, travel a lot and they just want something on the go they can read at lunchtime, at work, or whatever. So that's valuable too. I love ebooks as well. I have a lot of those on my tablet and on my phone. So from the audience, Nene asked a few questions. So she asks one, it says, what are good prices that we should look out for? There are a lot of, let's see. Oh, there are a lot of people, like she used the term money taking sharks out there. What are some price ranges we should look for in illustration purchases? So, Sheila, have you investigated that since you're writing a children's book in terms of illustrations?
I have had a couple of people give me some prices, but I didn't get a chance to really follow up with them because I haven't started the book. But I just kind of was initially listening for, different prices so I can kind of fill out which way I want to go. And I'm trying to think of what was the price. One guy, he's pretty popular though, so his was 1,500 or something like that. I'm not sure if that's a high price or, but they kind of had stipulations like, after a year you gotta, so it was kind of like a lot of different legal things with him because he's a very popular artist.
Okay.
So it's not really anything that I've investigated too far until I finish it off. But I may try artificial intelligence.
Okay. All right. Dr. Henry or Coach B, do y'all have any words on the cost of illustrators?
no.
No, I'm not using an illustrator.
Okay. I would say, so there are lots of different sites that you can go to, and you can also, find local individuals. So I was fortunate enough to find Praley Williams, and he just said that, Sheila, you can contact him.
Okay.
And I'll give you his contact information. And like I said, next Wednesday he'll be on with me as well. But I'll pass that on to you. So you can contact local individuals. people that you know that draw really well. Now, every person who draws well is not an illustrator for a book. An illustrator also needs the mindset to know, all you're doing is giving them a transcript most of the time of your book, and they need to turn your words into pictures. And um, it may not be exactly what you like, and y'all can discuss it, and they can change some stuff around, but you have to be flexible uh, to allow them to use their creativity, because that's why you hired them. Now, I didn't know that, so I didn't do that. I actually gave my illustrator sketches of what I was thinking about when I wrote, and he, he used those as a guideline, but he probably would have come up with better things than I was thinking about had I known to just give him the writing and let him run with it. So I know that now. So the next book, that's what I'll do. I'm not, doing any pictures. I'll let him do them, and then I'll just make the edits and suggestions on what needs to be changed. But Fiverr is a good place. But to answer your question, Nene, there's no general price, unfortunately, because depending on how um, developed that person is, how many customers, how popular they are, it could be a very high price. Um, it could be a low price if they're brand new, and you'll notice that if you're in Fiverr, for instance, and they only show that they've worked with 2 or 3 people, a lot of times your prices are much lower. But you have to be careful to read the fine line, because, like Sheila mentioned, there's a lot of legalese in there, and things you can and cannot do. They may say this is the price if you only have 2 characters on every page. But if you have 3 characters, then it's a different price. Or if you have a group of people, then it's a different price. Or if you have different backgrounds, it's a different price. If you want, so it's all kinds of different details that you have to pay attention to. So it's unfortunately, I can't give you a specific answer. And then question came dealing with what you said, Dr. Henry, when you're talking about real people in your books, although you did the courtesy of checking with them, are there any kind of like copyright or legal issues that you think you might run up against, or that are possible for somebody to run up against as a result of having real people in their book, stories about real people?
Yes, there are. In fact, I have someone that is looking at the book from a legal standpoint of some of the things that I've used, making sure that if I mention another writer or someone, that I have it as a reference. So, because you can run into some difficulties, some legal difficulties with some of the things that you say or claim that are yours. It could be plagiarism. There are quite a few things that you have to look out for.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So dealing with legal stuff with books. So there's a thing called an ISBN that has to go. Well, it doesn't have to actually, but most people will have an ISBN on the back of their book. It's a barcode, and sometimes it may have a price that is associated with that barcode, but it also has a 13-digit number. And that barcode is basically the social security number for your book. Now, if you're just self-publishing and you're just going to sell to individuals, you don't have to necessarily have a barcode. But if you're going to put it on any kind of platform, it helps them track it, because all they have to do is scan those books and they know. And it also helps the publishing world be able to find your book. So if they couldn't find it according to the title or your name for some odd reason, if they have that 13-digit number, they can type that in, and that's how the Library of Congress keeps track of books and things like that. Again, it's an option. It's very encouraged to get an ISBN. Now, let me tell you a little bit about what the differences are. You can get an ISBN from some publishers like Amazon if you publish on them, and when they give you an ISBN free, then they retain the rights in terms of being the publisher of record, even though it's self-published. So whenever somebody pulls that book up, somebody in the industry, it shows as Amazon being the publisher, even though you self-published. So you can purchase your own ISBN number, and they range from $50, $60 to $125. But you don't have to pay $125. It's the same thing you can get for $50. And once you buy that number, you own that number, and it's associated with you, and therefore you're the publisher on record. Now, that only really makes a difference in terms of legal rights to the book. So you don't necessarily have to purchase it, but definitely weigh the options and read what the difference is and why one way or the other is going to work better for you. Copyright, since they mentioned copyright, some people get their books copywritten, some people don't. It's up to you. You can get it. You could get it copywritten and do that on your own. Just go online and find the copyright office, and you can submit a copy of your transcript to them, your finished work, before it gets published anywhere, because you don't want to have it published and then copyright if you want to copyright it. And copywriting protects it and says that you're the person who indicated that this book was written by you. It's your own, your property, and so intellectual property. So you do want to copyright from that perspective. However, some people will not copyright their book, or they'll do what they call a poor man's copyright, and you can do that as well. There's different ways to do that, but the one that I know of, I didn't do it, but you can ship yourself a copy of your transcript and put it in an envelope, a sealed envelope, get it postmarked at the post office and mail it to yourself, and just never open that envelope. And that shows it has basically a timestamp and a date stamp on it, indicating when you first did this. So if somebody comes up later on and they say, no, I wrote this book, you can at least have this timestamp, but that only loosely protects you. So, if you want to get it copywritten, go ahead, the formal process. I don't know the price, but go ahead and figure out all of that information, which you can find on Google, and get it copywritten. So we got any more questions before we take your contact information so people can reach you all? All right. So Praley also said regarding getting an illustrator, you want to make sure. Well, one other thing, or a couple other things that they're going to look at. I saw it somewhere. Where is it? Or that you should look at. Oh, how skilled the illustrator is, their turnaround time, their experience, etc. So look at all those different things when you're considering an illustrator. Don't just pick the first illustrator because it says it's $10 to illustrate. It's really not going to be $10 to illustrate anyway, but a lot of times a little catch. They call it bait and switch. So, of course, you can mention your own name in any book. Okay, so I'll talk about this and then we'll close out. So when you're putting your book out there, you need to determine, like we talked about, your niche and your avatar, your audience. You also need to determine categories in which you're going to place your book. So is it a fiction? Is it nonfiction? Is it a thriller? Is it science fiction? Is it technical writing? Is it a memoir? What age group? What else? You can narrow down those categories very small. So it could be a children's book, but then it's only ages 4 to 8, and then it could be only for African American children, and it's dealing with science fiction or STEM. You want to break it down as much as possible, because when you're ready to publish your book, you want all those categories to show up as connected with your book, because if you're looking for bestseller status, it could be bestseller in any one of those categories. But if you only pick one or two categories, then it's not going to, well, it's going to be very difficult to get best seller status, because usually the first two categories you pick are very general. And so everybody's book, if I just pick children's books, then my one book is competing against all the children's books out there. But if I say children's book, African American, STEM, um, self-awareness, socialization, different, all these different categories, then every one of those categories my book is going to be listed under, and it may win bestseller as under the very last subject. But however you got to do it. All right. So with that, any last words from you all? And after you say your last words, go ahead and give your contact information so people can reach you. So we're going to start off with ladies again, and we'll start alphabetical. Cunningham.
All right. I just wanted to say encouraging words to you to believe in yourself. Don't doubt yourself. Pray about your book and know that it's not for you. It's to help others. With that mindset, I think you'll go a long way. Also, I am Sheila Cunningham, SHEILA.Cunningham.SC on Instagram, and just Sheila Cunningham on Facebook.
Okay.
Thank you for having us again. And great meeting you all too. And I'll look forward to your books.
Okay.
Likewise.
Okay.
Thank you, Sheila.
So, I agree with Sheila about getting started. Just get started. Just start writing and writing and writing and putting your thoughts down. And we'll be looking forward to having more guests on your show that from this, they started to write because we've motivated them. So that would be great to know if we've touched someone to get them started. So I can be reached at, my name backwards is Henry Jacqueline. Make sure the Jacqueline is LYN.com, MSN.com. So that's Henry Jacqueline at MSN.com.
Peace to everyone that joined in on the live and those that will be watching the replay. I want to leave you guys with this gem. So if you're a writer or considering writing, plan to be a writer in the future, then you probably already do a lot of self-reflection. And here I want to leave you with this gem. There's these 3 P's that I use as a guide: power, passion, and purpose. Power is what you do best. Passion, what you love. And purpose, what matters deeply to you. I'll for this audience of Dr. Mo, I'll send a resource that I created to help you with that, with those 3 P's. You can reach me through my website, www.ithriveglobal.com. You can email me at coachb@ithriveglobal.com. Social media, you can find me on Twitter, coachb_, Facebook.com, coach.balfour. It was a pleasure meeting you illustrious guests. I am honored. I can't wait to see your stuff and read it. Thank you, Dr. Mo.
My pleasure. And for me, let me see if this shows up right. All right, it's kind of pushed together. But you can reach me at info@drmored.com. And if you missed any of the contact information for our guest here, if you reach out to me, I will pass that information on, as well as the resource that Coach B just offered. And if you have any additional questions that you'd like me to forward to any of these illustrious individuals, I can do that. Just, again, hit me at info@drmored.com. And so my last words is 2 things. So I was listening to the radio the other day, and this Lauryn Hill song, Doo Wop, came on, and been listening to that song for years. Love it, right? And I've always seen the course, but it never dawned on me what the course really meant. And so it says, how you going to win when you ain't right within? And I was like, dang, all these years I never caught. I mean, I've been singing it, but I've never caught it. How you going to win when you ain't right within?
Right.
And so I'm a mindset coach. And so that really struck me like, that's the key. That's it right there. You got to have this right. You got to have your heart right. So my encouragement to the audience is to make sure that, yeah, everything's not going to be going perfectly, but your thoughts are literally your truth. So start to think a different way than whatever society is telling you to think, or even whatever your surroundings, whatever your situation is telling you to think. Think that, you can be, do, and have whatever it is that you want to be, do, or have. And so my second thing ties in with that, and it's part of my book now, and it's on all my emails and things like that as my signature. Believing is the birthplace to becoming. And so if you believe, or whatever you believe in, then if you believe long enough and strong enough, then you're going to become it. So if you want to be an author, carry yourself like an author. And that doesn't just mean to only think it, but do as all of our guests mentioned: start, write, research, encamp yourself with people who are going to support you, and then keep it moving. And they'll keep you accountable. They're going to tell you, come on, where's that book? You shouldn't have told me you writing a book. So, let's get it out. And yeah, the timing is going to work however it's supposed to, but at least they'll keep you on point, and they'll keep it in your head. And then when you put it out there, just like Dr. Henry said, you're going to end up in, and Coach B mentioned this too. Once you say you're going to write a book or do anything out loud, especially if you put it on paper, and that's what Sheila's book is all about. Once you express this, then God, the universe, however you look at it, is going to start to put people and things in place for you. You're going to meet people sitting to your left and your right who's talking across you. You're going to be reintroduced to somebody, or find somebody on social media who's going to connect with you and say, yeah, let's talk. So definitely you want to do that. So with that, we're going to close out. Again, I can be reached at info@drmored.com. This book will be released on April 5th, 2023. That is 2 weeks from today. And you can purchase it from Amazon on that day and beyond. And I'm going to encourage everybody on here and anybody watching the replay to buy Out of This World on April 5th. If you're thinking about buying it, get it on that date. If you're not thinking about buying it, get it on that date. So, and together we're going to go bestseller. So let's do that. And I want to support each one of these authors with their books. And again, the titles are Business Structure and Funding by Larry Coach B. Balfour. Messages from My Mirror by Dr. Jacqueline Henry. And Get Perfectly Balanced, a Wellness Journal by Sheila Cunningham. And then there are lots of other books from these authors as well that will be available. So just look out for their names. And because I mentioned this person, I'm going to say Teresa A. Swift. And her latest book is called Mint, M-I-N-T. And you can find her at teresaaswift.com. All right, with that, we're going to close out. I thank you for allowing me to spend an extra 30 minutes beyond our time. Appreciate you all. I love you all. And we will see you on next Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. All right, peace and blessings.
Peace.
And blessings.
Good night.
Good
Night,
night.
everyone.